Hello and welcome to your program Raising Kids Abroad. My name is Paloma Garcia, and today we have a beautiful and young American mother from Texas, Laura Chris, right?
Yeah, our last name is Leo.
Leo, I'm sorry, Leo. So tell me, Laura, what bring you to Taiwan, or who bring you to Taiwan?
The short answer would be my husband. He is Taiwanese and American, but we met in the States when we were in graduate school. So we've been married 10 years, but before we were married, he asked me if I would come to Taiwan with him. He'd been living in the States a long time, but he felt like if we were going to be together, I needed to know the culture and know his family and kind of see if we could also consider life here. So we did move here 10 years ago and we lived in Beitou in Taipei. But it was harder than I thought it would be. Like in the beginning, I loved it, but then I kind of hit a period of being really homesick. And eventually we did go back to the States. And then we came back again after we had our son. And that's the more recent time. And I can tell you why if you want to know.
Welcome.
The second time, a lot was going on. So there was a lot of factors influencing us. First of all, my son was born in 2019 and COVID really hit starting in 2020. He was just turning a year old and we started getting COVID in the States and the schools shut down. And we were both teachers. We continued working virtually. I mean, I'm sure it was a hard time for everyone. But then when the summer came, we decided to still travel to Taiwan because we had a frozen embryo at a fertility clinic here in Taiwan. And we wanted to have another child. And to have our son, we used the same clinic. And so we thought, we've really got to go back. I mean, regardless of COVID, we need to get rolling on this. We have to, time is of the essence when you have fertility issues. So we came. But then because of COVID, we could not return. We were stuck for 4 months. We couldn't get a flight back. And we had to take leaves of absence from work and everything. And but that got us to think, look how well Taiwan is handling COVID. And it's such a mess in the States. And we were like, we should just move here. They've really got things under control. And like our kid could really learn the language and we could, and it ended up that after we did the embryo transfer, it failed. So I had a miscarriage. So like after that, I was like, we need to do another cycle. So it would be best to just live here because it's very hard to pay for those treatments in the States. Like, I don't think we could ever afford it. So we kind of started thinking about it then. And eventually we got back to our state where we were living. And we were still thinking about it, still not sure. Our state decided to open schools back up, even when COVID was at its height. So we were working, and it was kind of scary because we were coming from safe Taiwan, going to like a state where COVID was just like out of control. But we were still thinking about maybe we should get our stuff together and move. And then even more stuff started happening, like because of COVID, there was all this backlash against Asian people. And there was this horrible hate crime in Georgia. We weren't living in Georgia, but we're in a neighboring state. And I started thinking, oh my God, like we just have to get out of here as soon as we can. And so we started selling all of our things and just really planning to move here. And
anything happened to your husband? Did he get any hate crime there?
He didn't, but not hate in a scary way for him, but he was a teacher in a school where he was the only Asian adult and there weren't many Asian people, and you would have kids yelling stuff at him and like saying things like to taunt him to some degree. And he wasn't scared about that, but it's not a pleasant thing to go through. And I was more scared than him. I was just really scared, like the father of my kids, my beloved husband, like I didn't even really want him to go out in public like by himself because I was just like, I don't know how people are going to treat him. And um, you know, yeah, I mean, all of our friends that live there are okay, and I guess it's hard. It's just hard to know if it's going to touch you or not. And I guess at that time, it really was an influence for me. But then beyond that, we knew we could continue with IVF treatments in Taiwan and also have our kid learn some of the language. So all of it together.
Yes, to learn where they also come from. Okay, so Laura, before you came to Taiwan, what do you knew about Taiwan?
I don't think I knew too much. I think I thought that I knew because I thought I've been around my husband and his Asian American friends and his his friend group was very like Taiwanese. And so I thought that I knew how Taiwanese people are. And I thought I kind of understood the history from what he told me. But of course, when you're totally immersed in it, it's different. So now looking back, I don't feel like I knew much at all. But I think at the time I thought I did.
Okay. So you came to Taiwan and you live in Ilan, right?
Yes.
No. Okay. And you have how many kids do you have? Could you please tell us more about your kids?
So my son that was born over 5 years ago, he's almost 6 now. And we finally got our second child. So our daughter is 14 months old. And we continued doing so many IVF cycles since we've been here. It took years to have her because I have autoimmune issues that made it really difficult. But, we're just so happy that the Taiwanese healthcare is so great and there's government gives you subsidies and kind of helps you to get those treatments. And we were able to have her.
So your son was born in the States, right?
Yes.
Okay, and your daughter was born here?
Yes.
Okay, so how was your pregnancy in Taiwan?
It was pretty hard. And I mean, something that didn't feel great during pregnancy was my doctor has a very different manner than doctors in the States. The States, the healthcare, of course, the costs are crazy, but you do get, you build like a little bit of a more personal, warm relationship with the doctors. As I'm sure you know, in Taiwan, it's they have so many patients. They don't take a lot of time for you. They kind of rush you through. And my doctor, he tended to be like really critical of my weight and always thought I was gaining too much and giving me a hard time about that, which doesn't feel great as a pregnant lady. Like you're already emotional. And he was really worried I was going to get diabetes, which now that I've looked it up, that's a lot more common for Asian women to get gestational diabetes. It doesn't mean I couldn't get it, but actually like I wasn't at really high risk for that. But he thought that I was. But I mean, other than that, I got to get so many ultrasounds because I had placenta previa, I had like some different issues. And so I did get really good prenatal care, I guess you could say, or
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you have a postpartum depression?
More anxiety. I think it was better having the second baby because I was just a little more prepared from the first time, but the birth experience was really different. It was a lot harder giving birth in Taiwan, to be honest with you. In the States, I got an epidural and they let you push while you're on the epidural. In Taiwan, they made it very clear that we're going to let your epidural run out because you can't push out the baby if you can't feel. And I was like, I know this isn't true because I've done it before. And actually it was great.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So was your mother here with you, or your mom didn't come to Taiwan?
No, they weren't able to come. No. So I was just me and my husband in the hospital. And it was tough a little bit because I trust the quality of the care, but the communication wasn't always great because they just kind of assume they can't communicate with me because there's a language barrier, but then they didn't even communicate with him. So a lot of times I was just like, what's happening? And I didn't know. But yeah, but she's born healthy and they took great care of us, but it was just very different.
Great. You, in which hospital did you have your son? Your daughter, I'm sorry.
Oh, my daughter, she was born in a hospital in Elon City. To be honest, I don't know the name of it. I can't remember the name, but it's a big, nice hospital there.
I have my son in Mackay Hospital, and there were only 2 births in that day. So we have the whole room for ourselves. We have like 8 beds in our room, and only for ourselves. So the birth rate in Taiwan is really, really low.
Yes.
So you're supposed to get more attention, but I don't know why. Yeah, like you say,
it was just, the expectations are different. Like, they don't really have the idea of the nurses catering to you as much here. It's more like your family is supposed to help, but still, I ended up with my own room too. Which was great because I had to stay. It turned out I stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks because my baby, they thought she had heart problems, which in the end she was fine, but they wanted to monitor her. And so I was like, no way, I'm going home. Like, I need to be here with my baby. So like, even if we need to pay for this room, like, I'm staying so that I can breastfeed her and still go into the NICU and see her. So it was like my second home. I was there for a long time.
Okay, great. But at the end, everything turned out okay, right?
Yeah, turned out really well. In the end, I'm happy for everything, how it went.
Okay, great. So, Laura, you are American, right? So your country doesn't have an embassy here. You have a commercial office.
Yeah, the American Institute in Taiwan, AIT.
Your kids are registered, right?
Yeah, they're dual citizens. We got all their paperwork so that they could be both.
Okay. U.S. passport, yes, it's very important that you and your kid register. So if there is anything happen, like any natural disaster, they can reach you. Okay, so do your kids go to school in Taiwan? The older one?
Yes, he does. He goes to a kindergarten, so it stops at his age. Like, the oldest kids are 6, and then he needs to move on to 1st grade and at elementary school next year. So we're still kind of looking at where to send him for that.
Okay. So, do you have a good communication with your son teacher?
Pretty good. They always use the Line app to communicate here. So, the Line app is a class, there's a class group, and then we can also privately email the teacher, which I usually, not email, use Line, just message her. But I always have to translate it first, which isn't a big deal. There's a new app that you can add a translator to your Line chat, and it will automatically do it for you too. So I can do that now.
Okay, great. And do your son like the school?
Yeah, he's really happy. So, I mean, I love that. I love that and there's a bus that picks him up right from our house and takes him home right to our house. So it's so nice.
How many students are in his class?
They have a mixed grade level at the way that he does it. So it's like 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, maybe about, I don't know, less than 18. I mean, between 12 and 18. I'm not really sure because every year the older kids leave and new kids come in. But okay, so it's not too big. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you do in Taiwan?
I'm an English teacher.
In a public elementary school?
Yes, in the public schools.
Okay. And do you like it? What do you think about the students, the system?
I do like it. I mean, I think that what's funny to me is I think a lot of Taiwanese people make negative assumptions about their own school system and maybe think the US school system might be better in some ways. But I don't, that's just based on what people say to me. They say those kind of things to me. Like, Taiwanese people believe that their schools are maybe just rote memorization and just so strict and so much homework. And I think there's an extent to which that's true, but I also see a lot of teachers just using the same kind of modern teaching philosophies that we use and that I was trained to use. I do think that there's some cultural underlying assumptions that make things different, of course. Like, I do feel like in the States, there's really the assumption that the responsibility for the students' learning is on the teacher's shoulders. So if your kids aren't making gains, which they measure by testing, then that teacher is held to account and responsible, might not get their contract renewed. Like they expect you to do everything you humanly can, like use every different type of way to engage the kids and captivate their attention. But in Taiwan, there's still more of an idea, I think, that the students are responsible for their own learning. And so some teachers, in particular the older school teachers, they won't really make too many, they don't make as much effort to engage the kids. They're just like, I'm presenting this information. If you're a good student, you will study it and you will learn it. And if you don't, then we're leaving you behind. And that's kind of what I see from the more traditional older type of teachers. But the younger teachers, I don't even mean age. I just mean like old school, like old style.
Yeah, many of these young teachers were educated abroad too.
That's right. I think so. And I think that when I go to train, the public school system does trainings with the foreign teachers, and there's all these professors. And when I look at the professors that work with us, and when I look at their credentials, I see so many of them have PhDs from the States. So yeah, the pedagogies and the things they're teaching are essentially what I've already been taught to do. But I do think sometimes there's a difference between the ideal of what should be happening in the school and then the reality, because you have teachers that have maybe been teaching a certain way for a really long time, and they're not probably going to change that too much. So it really depends probably on just who your teacher is in the Taiwanese schools, if you're getting which kind of style of educating you're getting.
Yes. You were also teacher in the States, right?
That's right.
What is the differences between the both systems? The Taiwanese system? Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, it's such a big question because there's just so many little things I notice. I mean, I think that in the States in general, we have a lot of focus on presentation skills and group work, and that is maybe not as much of a focus here. But on the other hand, unfortunately, I feel like the States has also moved towards a lot of things such as high stakes testing that aren't really great for the educational environment. And there's a lot of like political interference as well, like depending what state you live in, what district, like the government itself starts coming in and saying like, you can't have these books in your class, or just really limiting the teachers, making their jobs harder. I mean, I have a little bit of resentment against the district that I was in, because I do feel like during COVID, when they forced our schools to be open, it wasn't just the district, it was the state. But I felt like our safety wasn't considered, and we were just, made to come to work not knowing what the health consequences could be for us or our loved ones if we got, COVID, which at that point we didn't really know what it was, and people were.
You feel more supportive here as a teacher in your school that you are now?
I think in some ways I feel more supported. In some ways I just feel more left alone. In the States, I think there's a lot more like micromanaging from the administrators, like popping into your classroom unannounced and just like making sure you're doing the right thing. And in Taiwan, they just kind of leave me alone and I guess assume that I'm doing the right things. And I'll have observations, but they're scheduled far in advance. And so it's just different in that way.
Okay, and how about the students?
The students, I mean, every school is going to have a range of students with different behavior issues and study habits. And you're going to have your high level learners and your low level learners. But the range of behavior is far more extreme in the States, I think. Like I've seen some pretty wild stuff in the schools there. Sadly, I think that we've got a lot of kids that are, coming from maybe some struggling backgrounds, I guess. Their families are struggling in some way. And so that you really see it at school, and it can be really, really hard as a teacher. But at the same time, the schools kind of know this, and they've got a system for managing behavior. Usually there's some kind of set rules that the teacher needs to follow to document these behaviors and take note of it happening. And there's some kind of procedure for what the consequences should be, hopefully. But in Taiwan, I don't see any behaviors that are that wild, but every once in a while, there will be students that also seem to be struggling. And it seems to me like the school system isn't as good at handling that, because maybe those cases are not as frequent. But I mean, you'll see stuff in the news about, you know, a violent student and eruption in class in Taiwan. And
it's not very frequently. And if a student behaves bad, yes, and the other students will isolate him. They will categorize him as a troublemaker. So the other students won't be close to him.
Yeah. So, and then in the States, I mean, it depends. Every school and district is different. Like my husband and I always worked in quite different schools, but I've worked in some where definitely the social environment of the kids was that, you know, I guess, you know, popularity and social connection was far more important to the kids than their own education was. And I think in Taiwan, I'm sure not every family cares about education, but maybe it's a little more common to care about it.
Yes, so you can see they are afraid to lose weight, to lose face, and they don't want to be called to the school. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so you can see that.
Okay. Laura, thank you so much for this interview. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, I mean, I just, you know, thank you for talking with me, and I appreciate it. It's interesting to live in another culture where you weren't born and raised, and try to figure it out as you go when you can't read. I'm, you know, illiterate here. I don't speak the language, but we're figuring it out. And overall, I think like Taiwan's a really safe place to raise my kids. They're getting to learn about their heritage. I think that they'll have stronger sense of identity from living here. So even if we end up going back to the States one day, I'm just really happy to be here now, experiencing life here in Taiwan.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you one question that I will always ask to all my interviewers. You are half Mexican, right?
Yeah, my dad is half Mexican, so I'm a quarter, but my grandmother was Mexican.
Okay, so what is family for you?
Family is, definitely coming down from my Mexican grandmother. She really valued family, and as do I. I think it's everything. I mean, I think that I'm trying to build my own little family right now and do everything for my kids and to keep them safe and healthy, and family is extremely important. It is, and it's hard to live so far away from my parents. I feel really guilty for being so far from them.
In Mexico, we say when you marry your husband, you also marry with the family of your husband. Is that the same in the States? Or you are more like, no, I marry with my husband, now I form my own family?
Yeah, I'm not quite as extreme as that, because I think that, I mean, I can see how that could make sense, but I don't know. I don't feel like I'm not sure how I feel about that, I guess, because I know that with my in-laws, I have language barriers. So I always am happy to have them in our home, and we go to their home, but I'm probably not as close to them as I could be, but it's mostly because I have that language barrier with them.
Don't worry, I've been married with my husband for 28 years. And at the end of the day, mothers, we want, regardless of any nationality, mothers, we want the best for our son. So if we know that our kids are happy, they are going to love you.
Yeah, I'm really lucky in my in-law relationship. I've heard of things going badly there, and they're very sweet to me, and my mother-in-law is really supportive and helpful, and we just can't talk to each other, but it's fine. We have really good vibes.
Okay. It's okay. Just compliment her food, but always be yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Don't try to change. Just be yourself, because faking it is not the right answer. It's not the right way to do it. later she will realize that if her son is happy, if you are happy, and the grandkids are happy, she's gonna love you.
Yeah.
She already loves you, so it's okay.
I hope so.
Thank you so much. This is a question very important because I would like to know. I'm interviewing a lot of people from different nationality, and I would like to know what is a family means in every culture.
Oh. Okay.
Thank you so much, Laura. Wish you the best. Enjoy Taiwan. It's a beautiful island, and I hope one day we can meet in person.
Yeah, I would love to meet you too. Tell me if you come to Ilan, you can come stay with us, come visit us.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the interview. And see you next time.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And everybody, if you have any comments or any question, please just write under the video. Okay, thank you so much. See you next time.
Bye
Bye.
Bye.